was at Yale University in 1968. The first play I saw was Mysteries in Smaller Pieces, which was quite arresting and incredible. For me, it was a theatrical synthesis of everything I was feeling in those years with the politics and the music from San Francisco, the anti-Vietnam War struggles, the civil rights. And there it was all up on stage with a simplicity and no artifice of, false theater situations. And I saw Antigone and Frankenstein, Frankenstein was this total theater piece, an amazing, crazy phantasmagoria. And Paradise Now was amazingly provocative because I felt I had to get up and act and perform in the rituals. I didn't get completely naked. And I did these amazing rituals which you kind of lost your ego. You lost the fact that you were acting. You were doing real actions. It was like Woodstock or something. It was like dancing. And yet it was with text and politics and commitment and beauty.
To this fucking money war system. Not particularly attached to any geographical point. I'm attached to the human race. Right. You've got to stay in contact with your vision.
However, after the first 3 Paradise Nows that I saw, I started to go to Boston and New York to follow the group, like a groupie. And I came up against a wall because I knew what the proper responses were. I knew in the Rite of Apokatastasis you did this. I knew in the mat piece you did the massage or whatever. I knew the text, and it didn't feel like I was being honest. I was acting. It didn't feel like I was being fresh.
What do you want? To stop destroying the mind of the people! We want to be free! 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 Paradise now!
One of the last Paradises, I was up in the balcony at the Roundhouse, and there was a lot of stuff going on, 4 or 5 hours of actions and people yelling and so forth. And it was time to do the mudras. There's a section where they do mudras, these Indian movements. And it's the To Be Frees again, I think. And Peter Weiss was up in the balcony, and he was one of the actors, and he said, "Oh, you've been around, you know how to do this, do the mudras with me." And suddenly a light bulb went off in my head. It was like a eureka moment. And I said, "Oh, they've rehearsed." And it suddenly, I relaxed. I realized that you could take on a role artificially in order to get to someplace real. And there's a justice for that, which is an old, stupid theatrical lesson, I guess.
I don't know!
I don't know!
Stop the war!
I don't know!
To be free is to be free, to change.
Paradise Now, though, was very much this audience participation play where we very aggressively, or they very aggressively, urged the audience to get up, act, be the Indian, be the protester in the street, get up out of your seat. I know that after the American tour, some of the actors felt that it really hadn't been the success that they wanted it to be, that it didn't lead to immediate political change. I mean, they set their sights very, very high. They thought they were going to enact the revolution through theater and then into the streets. And it didn't always work that way. It was a lot of Sturm und Drang. I don't know if you've seen the video of the last performance in Berlin in 1970, and it's 7,000 people in the Berlin Sportspalast, and it's chaos. was like flying too close to the sun sometimes, and the group, of course, did break up at the end of that period, because some people thought they should take theater to the streets and take theater to the poorest of the poor and to the factories, and some people tried to do a version of Paradise Now with rock and roll music called Atomic Angel Ape Out. One group went off to India and did a lot of spiritual work and created a play called Layla Troupe. Judith and Julian's group was the only one that really kept going because they had that tremendous drive and willpower. And they went to Brazil, and we had that whole experience there of doing theater in the streets. I joined the group then in Brazil. We were arrested, of course, and there was that whole story. In 1969, immediately after the Living Theater, you had Hair, which had some nakedness, and you had O Calcutta, the play that Kenneth Tynan put on, which was all about nakedness and broke all the rules. And after that, there was no rule against being naked on stage in America. It all happened very quickly. And Michael Butler, who produced Hair, spoke to Julian Beck at the time. He wanted to bring Paradise Now to Broadway. And Julian wouldn't do it because he didn't believe in that economical situation. Later he might have done it, because things changed, because we eventually did go back into the commercial theater in the late 70s. Because there was this whole thing about leaving the commercial theater, taking the political ideas in Paradise Now very literally and creating the new society in the shell of the old and trying to get away from the established commercial theater, which we tried to do for several years.
Sacred head!
I don't know how to stop the killing.
Sacred face.
Sacred shoulder!
Don't know how to stop.
We don't have the money to do Paradise Now. The company in the 1960s was amazing, and in the 1970s, because Julian Beck figured out how to clothe and feed and house on an average of 15 to 20 people. And almost every year there was a moment when there was no money. And everybody was, eating cornflakes. And in some ways you have to be young to I'm 66 now. I would find it difficult to do. And it's impossible, of course, with Judith. I recently found a lot of correspondence, which is, we're going to sell now, and it was Julian's business correspondence from the 60s and 70s. And you see this endless, it was before computers and cell phones and all that stuff, and there are lots of squiggles, little notes, lists of budgets, writing to producers, just endless. But I think they mostly wanted Paradise Now to be about love, ultimately. I think Paradise Now enacted the horror to try to get to the love, to get through, which has often been the Living Theater's main goal, to enact rites and rituals, to bear witness to the truth in order to release the force of love. And it's hard work sometimes.
Hey!